right, everybody, welcome back to the first episode of what we're calling, what do we call it, the quarantine special? I don't know.
Something like that.
We're cranking out more episodes as we're stuck at home, but we're going to keep doing it. Anyway, breaking away from our regular binge episodes, we saw the Pixar movie Onward in its home release. Yeah, pretty good movie. My name's Harrison.
I'm Kelton.
And I'm Cade. Let's get to it.
Yeah, and this week we're going to kind of keep the whole thing spoiler-free until kind of halfway through. We'll drop the spoiler wall, and we'll let you know when we do. So if you haven't seen this movie, feel free to keep listening and just, see if it's worth the watch.
All right, that's going to start us off with our 2 cents. So this is going to be 2 minutes. We all get 2 minutes each. This is going to be spoiler-free. There will be no spoilers. We each talk for 2 minutes about what we liked about the movie, our initial impression, and whatnot. So, Kate, you got my timer going?
Yes, you are... Go.
All right, so I went into this movie with very low expectations. For some reason, I just wasn't very excited. I was honestly low-key kind of bored thinking about it. But I was very pleasantly surprised. Like, this does live up to your typical Pixar movie of where it is very, very heartwarming. I was surprised, how touched I was. Normally I'm not into, like touchy-feely movies, but this one did get to me at the end. So, this movie, brought me back to being a little kid again, just because it's full of, magic, watching... they're being unicorns and magicians and stuff, and it was very cool because it kind of had a play of modern times. You feel like you're living in 2020, but also there's magic, and it was very cool to see how they integrated the two of them together. So it made a lot of fun to watch for that reason. Gosh, it's so hard not to get into spoilers, but I would definitely recommend this movie, especially if you have always loved typical Disney movies, Pixar movies. Because it's just a good, happy movie. If you're a kid or adult or whatever, if you like a good, happy feeling movie, this is definitely for you, as Pixar always does. But it was surprisingly hilarious. I was laughing out loud. I had to pause the movie twice because it was so dang funny. I'm sure it's not super funny the entire way. It's more of chuckle kind of things, but there were 2 moments where I was dying. I had to stop because it was so dang funny. I would definitely, if you haven't seen this movie, I would recommend paying money to go see this movie or renting it or something because it was that fun for me.
All right. Nice take. I like that. I'll go next. So, this movie... Oh, I first saw the movie and I was like, this looks so lame. This has got magic in it and they're trying to bring their dad back from who knows what and his pants is the only thing that showed up. And let's go find the rest of them. And I'm like, this sounds so lame. I don't know if I want to see it. And so my wife, Sam, she's like, I really want to see this. Let's go watch Onward. I'm like, I don't want to go. But I go anyway. And I'm like, and the movie starts off, and it's just kind of cool seeing the whole world of that they created, and so that was really fun because I wanted to see how they depicted certain monsters and stuff. But then as the movie went on, I was like, okay, so this was different than what I expected, and I was very grateful for that because I was expecting some weird load of crap. So I'm really happy about that, but. I want to point out the foreshadowing and lighting, editing, and oh my gosh, cinematography is actually, I noticed stuff. I was like, oh shoot, that was pretty big, or I didn't notice that this third time around, but it was and there was one detail I want to point out after about Barley, the older brother, that was I don't know how I missed this detail, but I did. But overall, this movie is, man, it blew my expectations out of the water. But it was it's just fun to watch. I love the commentary because it's got Chris Pratt, and Tom Holland in it, and I don't remember anybody else. But That's all he remember. But anyway, this movie is so good. I recommend it. I want to buy this movie because it's just so good. Because I can see my kids watch this over and over again.
Yeah, man, I agree with everything you guys said. So I'll just kind of go next and repeat everything that was said. But yeah, very, very, very similar things. Where like, I didn't really have huge expectations for this, and like, I knew it was a Pixar movie, but like seeing trailers and thinking about it, it felt more like a Disney movie than a Pixar movie. Like, especially like with the new Pixar movie Soul coming out, like that seems very Pixar-y, and this just felt like a weird Disney fairy tale enchanted story. And but I wanted to see it because I like the cast and I like Pixar, and I was like, whatever, I'll give them. And then we didn't get a chance to see it in theaters before the quarantine. But anyway, so my wife and I watched it together, and instantly, like, it just starts. It's so good. Like the animation, the lighting, the world building, like everything that you know and love of Pixar is just done so perfectly at the beginning. But then it really, like, all the other things, like the emotion behind it, the heartwarmingness, like the characters that you just instantly fall in love with, but also like the humor. It's all there. Like it definitely delivers. And like my wife, she's normally not somebody who's like touched by movies emotionally. I mean, she is sometimes, but not a ton, particularly movies like this. And then like with the first 5 minutes, she was crying. And then like constantly throughout the movie, she just like, she really, there was like a big connection between her and Ian, the character played by Tom Holland. And so like constantly throughout the movie, I'd have to like pause it because she was crying so hard. I'm like, it's okay, like it's gonna get better. but then at the end, like I was in tears too, and like I was not expecting to enjoy this movie as much as I did, like just on an enjoyment level, but also to like be as impressed and touched emotionally as I was. Because like, I mean, I know we have a whole segment of our podcast where we talk about that, but like I'm not really like into that type of movie. Like I like trying to drag that out of movies, but I'm not into movies like that, if that makes sense. And I was not expecting it from this movie, but it was a pleasant surprise. And it's just a ton of fun. It's funny. The voice acting is perfect, like any Pixar movie. It's just so fun to enjoy. Yes, I totally recommend this movie. So, yeah, that's all I have to say, really.
Yeah, pretty solid all the way around.
It's so much harder without getting into spoilers.
It is. It really
everything I
is.
say
I
is so
hate it.
generic.
We're trying to pay, you know, some respects to, because this movie is very recent, and we're trying not to like just throw everything out the window and spoil it all. Maybe you guys enjoy us doing that, but for this time we're gonna try out, you know, a little less spoilers, be more considerate, I guess. But
yeah, we will drop the spoiler wall later and get into them, but kind of like for the first half of these main segments, people who are deciding if they should or should not watch it, we'll keep it spoiler free.
So, next segment is pick your poison. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. This point where we pick what we want to do with this movie, whether we can just watch it and move on with our lives, or I don't know, go on Disney Plus to watch it, rent it, spend a couple bucks, or actually straight up buy it. For me, I totally buy this movie, you know, and I feel bad that I was so skeptical. Then again, when I, like, back in the day when Guardians of the Galaxy was, like, there was a trailer for it before it was released, I hated it. It looked stupid. So, my word may not mean anything, but I'll buy it.
Dope. For me, this ranks for me probably right at the Rent, our second highest ranking, because I don't buy a lot of movies in the first place, but then movies I do buy, they're ones I absolutely love. Not saying like this one's bad, but it's still really good. I'm just not the guy who goes out and buys like Disney movies, or Pixar movies. So I would definitely rent this movie. It's worth spending the money, in my opinion.
I'm the exact opposite of Kelton. I'm the type of person that just buys like every movie, whether it's great or okay. It's just something that I do. But yeah, I would definitely buy this movie. I almost pre-ordered it, but mainly because like seeing how much my wife really enjoyed it. Like, there's not that many movies that like both of us feel the same love and appreciation for. So when those do come along, I gotta get those as soon as I can. And it's like, I mean, I don't have any kids now, but I will in the future, and it's definitely a movie I want my kids to be able to see.
I just had a thought of like, I should start collecting some movies that my kids are gonna want to watch, you know, because you can't just always rely on a streaming service.
I will say though, if you're like at home and you're looking for a movie to watch during your stream, this movie's on Disney Plus, which if you haven't signed up for already, it's like $8, but I think you get like a week free. This is worth the $8. Like, on top of everything else great on Disney Plus, this is definitely I mean, it's definitely worth the renting price of like $20 it is to rent on a video on demand. But Disney Plus, just sign up, go watch the movie. It is so worth it.
Solid. Heck yeah.
All right, so that's kind of like our next segment here. Does it live up? Which is like,
It's not as
kind of sharing our
shocking.
expectations. Yeah, it's only when one of us, at least one of us, has not seen the movie, which Kelton and I had not previous to this, and we kind of mainly talked about it in our 2 cents. But in essence, like, we talk about what our reason for picking this movie was, and then did it live up to our expectations. I'll go first. We picked this movie just because it was a recent movie and it was on Disney Plus, and I thought it'd be a fun one to kind of start with. My expectations, I already kind of shared, they were pretty low. Did it live up to them? It highly exceeded them. Just repeating what I said earlier.
Yeah, for me, I would say if you want to watch this movie, don't watch the trailers. For some reason, the trailers don't really send like the right message or give a good vibe for the movie. It's weird. Like Kate said, you see in the trailers, there's these two guys who look like elves. They're blue, and there's a dude with like pants, just like running around. There's no upper half, and you're like, what the frick is going on? It just comes off as weird because you don't know like the context of the movie. So I'd say it definitely exceeded expectations. Part of it, they were lowered from the trailer. So I think if you went in going with a better like open mind of not having watched the trailers, I think it would help your overall experience of watching
Like the movie almost
but it definitely
redirected.
did exceed the hype.
The movie almost redirected your expectations.
Yeah, it definitely laid out the context, but I mean, like any movie would, you actually know what's going on. But the trailers were just kind of weird. The like scenes they used for them, I just was left confused and felt like it was a strange movie. But I would, it definitely exceeded expectations here.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the end of the spoiler wall here. We're going to move on to our other segments, but if you have not seen the movie, don't keep listening. We don't want to ruin for you. It's way better if you don't know what's going on.
That spoiler warning is in effect.
Yes, spoiler walls drop. So if you have not seen the movie, go sign up for Disney Plus, watch the movie, come back, listen to the main episode. For everybody else, on to the regular scheduled program. Okay, future Harrison jumping in here super quick because the time is drawing near for the end of Podchaser's reviews for good. On April 16th, they are not going to be accepting, they'll still accept reviews, but they're not going to go towards the donation. So Podchaser, if you don't know, is often referred to as the IMDb of podcasts, and it's a place where you can leave reviews, which we would appreciate if you do. But yeah, leaving a review, any review you leave on any episode or podcast, whether it's the Basement Binge or any other podcast, Podchaser will donate to Meals on Wheels, which is an organization that helps donate to those in need, getting meals to deliver to them at home, which is a huge thing that can help out those strongly affected by the coronavirus, those elderly people at risk. So yeah, leave us a review. We would appreciate it. The link to that is in the top of the show notes, or just go to podchaser.com and leave a review on any podcast you listen to. We would appreciate the podcast, but it's also going to do a lot of good for the world, and it's pretty simple. So yeah, sorry for jumping in there. Back to the regular scheduled program.
Finally, dude, this is a hard movie to not get into details, man. All right, first things first. We have our section, which is binge points. Normally, with other movies, you're doing like Easter eggs. This movie isn't necessarily like queued up to have like a bunch of Easter eggs, so we're gonna use this time to just talk about like cool things in the movie, things we enjoyed, just anything like that. So let's start it.
Dying to say this. Okay, number one. It took me three times to watch this movie to realize Barley has a cast.
You didn't.
On
You
his
didn't
hand.
notice that?
I didn't even realize he had that. I was like,
What?
what?
You didn't notice?
You didn't
He had a
notice?
cast on. So he has that
Yeah,
one
his
with
left
that
hand
band
had a
on
cast.
His arm has like spikes on it. His other hand, it's a straight up cast. You can see it's around his thumb, just like a normal cast, and it's black. It's the reason because it was black. That's what threw me off because casts are usually like a different color. And it was totally a cast, and I didn't even realize that until like
There's even like
I was
writing on it.
halfway through the movie, and he was like, when he was growing up, like he was shrunken down, and he was like growing back to his normal size. That's where I saw. I was like, oh my gosh, it's a freaking cast. How did I not realize
Wait,
that?
why does he have a cast?
Broke his hand or wrist or something.
This is what I was going to point out, and I was going to talk about it, and then thinking about what I was going to say about it, I realized, like, That's one of the things. Like the movie, he just has a cast. Like what happened? Broke his wrist, his arm. I don't know, but he's got a cast. And then at the end of the movie, he doesn't have a cast, which is like a good way to show the passage of time. At the end, like when his van is fixed and like the kind of happily ever after, his cast is gone. But like what I was gonna say was like he has a cast. It's never mentioned, never explained, never drawn attention to, and then the end is just gone like normal. Like it's just kind of like it makes it feel like they're just living their normal life. But then at the same time, and I'll get into this and more and fall in, I feel like it's a really good, like, super poignant symbolism. Like, Barley was a little bit broken, and then through the experience he went to, he was mended. And, like, I just, like, and I didn't realize that, like, watching the movie was like, oh, cool, he had a cast and now it's off. Like, that's kind of cool. Like, just really good, like, lived in characters. And then getting ready for the podcast, I was just going to mention how he had a cast that was never drawn attention to. I was like, well, why? Like, what's the purpose of having a cast? And then I was like, well, maybe that's why. It's like a really, really good symbolism.
Wow.
Dude, that's really cool. It kind of like makes me appreciate like subtle details like that when like they don't explicitly like show it or explain it in the movie, it just like makes it that more like, what's the word? I don't know, like well thought out or something. Just because it like wraps it up pretty good, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, here's another detail that I got. So, remember the gelatinous cube? It's green, right? So, they're on a quest and they're about to go on the freeway or the speedway or a different direction. And they're explaining like which way they should go. And oh my gosh, Ian is like, we should go this way, it's faster because we have more time for our dad and stuff. And Barley's like, okay, if you get swallowed by a gelatinous cube, right? He says that, the light turns green. Immediately, right as he says that, it's like boom, green. And like that shines their faces into like a green light. I was like, oh, that's foreshadowing. That was subtle. I thought that was cool.
I thought the movie was so good at foreshadowing. Like, how it made a joke, like, Barley at the beginning was showing his book and it was talking to the centaur, the cop, whatever his name is, and he's like, centaurs used to be able to run 70 miles an hour. And then when, like, they drive off in the car, he runs, like, 2 feet, and he's like, like, just stupid things. Like, there's so much just, like, point out loud, like, reveal later. And, like, a lot of the time it was for humor, but it was just done in good ways. And there were some others that I don't remember, but they did a really good job of that.
Oh yeah, like especially like watching Ian like learn to be a magician. If we see him like struggle with these spells, but then at the end when he's fighting the dragon, like he's just like whipping him out like crazy, like yeah, Ian, like this is sick. I got chills, but
like when he's fighting the dragon at the end and he's like running on the steps, like to the point where he even like slides on the invisible bridge. I was like, that was so cool.
Oh yeah.
But I'm curious though, Kelton, what were the 2 scenes that made you laugh so hard you had to pause it?
All right, okay. Okay, they're my favorite scenes. Like,
oh, okay, you can save them for then.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna wait for those. Even now, dude, they're just solid. I love those scenes. So some Easter or like binge points that I noticed. I don't know, like if you guys saw in Guinevere, is that the name of the van?
Yeah.
Okay. Just something I noticed, like on the first Guinevere 1. Right when they get out of the car, I can't remember what scene it is, but like right above the tire, like written on the side and like tiny lettering, it says like Valor. And I was like, dude, that is just so sick. Like these tiny things that kind of like give you that whole like quest kind of Dungeons and Dragons feel of just like, we're going on an adventure, let's go get this. And just like, I don't know, it was just like a subtle hint, like he just writes Valor on his car. And I was like, okay, that's pretty dang cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Let's see what else.
I have a bunch of others, but they're kind of like my favorite scenes and relate to Fall In, so I'm saving them. But
yeah, I agree. Oh, and then another Easter egg, or not Easter egg, but binge point. Like we kind of mentioned with like the foreshadowing, so they keep getting like splinters, and then at the end he like loses his staff, right? And then he pulls out his splinters. Like, oh, every fiber there's magic, and then he like uses the spell to like grow it into like his own staff now. So now it's even more personal. But then he like uses that staff to do the arcane lightning, and you're just like, what?
Oh, it was so cool.
Definitely, like, I would say this movie used, like, every opportunity, like, every scene I would feel like was setting something else up down the road.
Yeah, not a single moment was like a waste of detail.
Oh yeah, like even just the small interaction when they go to get the Manticore's sword, and so she's like, okay, $10, and then she's like, oh, the one of a kind sword in all the land, and then the lady's like, oh, actually it's 10,000, because it's one of a kind sword in all the land, and they like, you can't do that, and she's like, I just did, and then literally like 10 seconds later, when she gets stung in the neck by Manticore and she falls down, she's like, oh, you can't take the sword, she's like, I just did, like it's like completely like thrown around, like I feel like every scene was used in some way to set something up, which I think goes, hats off to like the directors and everyone involved with the movie because they're just setting it up. So it's like every scene is fun, it's just kind of like a quick mini throwback shout out to whatever they're throwing back. And so it just made it cool to watch.
Yeah. This one I'll point out, this movie really just was like the great quest movie. Like it really, like I was not expecting to feel like I was on an epic quest in a Pixar movie. And it really did feel that way. But also, like, everything you love about a Pixar movie. It just, everything was balanced really, really well.
Yeah, I agree.
So, but I don't have any others.
All right, dope. We ready to move on to the next one?
I think so.
Okay. I'm gonna enjoy this section. Least and likes, least favorite scenes and favorite scenes. Start with least favorite scenes. Okay, there's a scene it's during almost the beginning of it. And it's the point where right before he goes to school? I think so. He has a tape recording of his dad, and he like pretends to be on a phone call with him.
Oh yeah.
I understand. As a kid, when you miss out on things and things that you don't have that everyone else does, you tend to do things that you want to impersonate or pretend, or just because you want that so bad because you feel left out. Or just feel sad in general. And so I understand the reasoning why he did it. But it just felt weird. And I was like, this is kind of an awkward scene. It's like things you do when no one's around, you do stuff, And it's like, to me, I shouldn't have seen him do that. Because I was just weird.
I gotta actually, Kate, I agree with you here. That was my least favorite scene. Because it felt like I was watching, like I should have been like, watching is like kind of turn away, like I'm not supposed to be here, kind of, especially the part like he's having the like you said, Kate. I see how it's critical to the movie, how it sets up like Ian's character arc and shows like how badly he's hurting and stuff. But it like there's the part when he's like talking with his dad, he's like, oh, I was thinking maybe we could, and then his dad's like, okay, bye, and he's like, oh, and I was like, oh, whoa. It's like, oh, that's like part of it because like I felt horrible. You're like, oh man, that is so sad. But it was all just like, oh, why did that happen? So yeah,
it's the tape. I don't know how he got caught away with it.
He totally just ran away with it. You're just like, frick, dude. Like that is seriously way sad.
He's like almost forgetting there's gravity kind of a thing. Like it's like. It's a tape, dude. Like, I don't know.
He just barely turned 16. He gets caught up. He really, really misses his dad. He really idolizes him. It's like his hero and stuff. But still, it's like, it was a little too much for me. I think if they played it down a little more, it would have been okay. But that was my least favorite scene.
I had a different least favorite one. My least favorite was at the end when they come back. Like, they make it through the gauntlet, and then they, like, come up through the manhole cover, and they're back at the high school. And Ian, like, blows up at Barley and, like, yells at him. He's like, if I wouldn't have listened to you, like, you chose wrong. Like, it almost felt like a little cliche, like, typical movie. Like, the hero learns a lesson, but isn't quite applied yet, so he makes one more mistake, and then making the mistake, he realizes it's just wrong and, like, fixes his actions. Like, he totally did that. Totally fits, like, the quest movie type thing. But it kind of felt unnatural for all the growth that Ian had gone through. Like, it almost felt like it was forced.
I was thrown when he said that.
Like, I understand why he'd be confused, but, like, I felt like all the growth he had, he'd be like, all right, let's keep looking. Like, he'd be enthusiastic to, like, finish it, and it felt a little bit forced. Like, I understand it's important for the character. It kind of fits the cliche movie thing, but, like, there's something about it that I was like, I just wish that would have gone differently.
Yeah, it kind of shows, like, it was, like, lack of effort. Like, it's a place he knows, it's his high school, but maybe it's hidden, like, some kind of thing. He didn't even, like, try. He just instantly, like, kind of blows up and just runs off. So, yeah, I agree. That was weird.
Yeah, like I can understand like a little blow up, but it was like all the character growth had just like instantly negated. Like, yeah, I understand give him kind of like a little hiccup, but it was like none of it. So, anyway, should we move on to our favorites?
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm anxious to hear Kelton's. I want to know.
Okay. I was dying, absolutely dying when what's the older brother's name again? It's
Barley.
When he sacrifices Guinevere and going up there, like
He's just saluting.
That he salutes it, and then like the back tire pops and it starts like kind of galloping like a horse, and then like all the tickets fly out the windows, and it flies like off the jump and it like goes to like the unicorn's view as it's like fly, and there's like a neigh or something like that. Part of it was just like the music and then just like how Barley set it up. I was dying, dude. I absolutely love that scene. It is by far my favorite scene in the movie. It was absolutely fantastic.
It's so good. I was so that scene and there was another one. But what was the other scene that you thought was really funny?
Oh, so my honorable mention favorite scene goes to the very end. It was actually like a super low-key moment. I was just completely thrown. I was not expecting this to happen. So, it's right when Ian gets home from school, and he's, like, talking to the dragon, and then the cop, I forget his name, he's about to go outside, and the wife, like, oh, you forgot your keys, and he pulls off his hair, reveals his absolute gorgeous man. He was like, I was born to run, and he just starts going. I was like, what the heck? It was so good.
I was expecting that to happen, totally, but like the hair, what the heck? Like I was expecting him to run, but the hair was just like that came out of nowhere.
I know. I just love that. That was his moment in the whole movie. Just I was born to run, and then just gallops off into the sunset.
Watching it, seeing it before. I wanted to see if like. And other times where like if he had his hair tied up or anything, and I couldn't really tell. I was like, I don't know where the frick he got his hair. Like, he just grew it out or something. But that guy, I want to say this though, he was horrible. I hated the dude. He was so annoying at the whole movie, and that scene, he's like, okay, all right, he can be in the movie.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh.
Oh, I love that. It was just so random. I was totally caught off guard. I was in my bed watching. I had to pause the movie and just laugh for like 30 seconds because it was just so funny. So, yeah, those are my two favorite scenes.
Honorable mention would either be like the end fight scene where Ian masters the spells. Other super honorable mention, and it's just because like how well it endeared me to Ian, is at the beginning when he like tries to make breakfast like 4 times. And everyone ruins his breakfast. It made my wife so sad. She just kept crying. But, like, it wasn't particularly enjoyable, but, like, it really endeared me to Ian, which Ian I really like. My favorite scene, though, is when Guinevere is sacrificed, though. Like, one, because it's hilarious. Like, he's playing To Valhalla, which is, like, Viking heaven. Just salutes, like, just a sure salute the whole time. But it's also, like, one of, like, the first moments where you really see the depth of Barley's emotion and, like, that was another scene where my wife cried because she's like, he sacrificed his van. It's like the one thing he wanted to do with his dad was show him his van. And it was like so much self-sacrifice and like selflessness, but like hilarious and just emotion and humor just perfectly combined. And favorite scene right there, by far. Best scene of the movie.
Oh, yeah. Solid, dude. So good. What about you, Case?
So the reason why this is my favorite scene, the Guinevere sacrifice is an honorable mention. But this is my favorite scene because this is when I like really broke the ice with this movie. Like, okay, this is a funny movie. This is a good movie to this point. And it's the point where, oh my gosh, Barley gets shrunk and they're in the van. They're trying to run away from the pixie gang bike riders. It was weird. And so they're riding, and so he's like trying to merge. And the point where he tried to merge before when he failed. And he's like, I'm not ready. And then, like, little brother's like, you'll never be ready. Merge! That whole part was... I got a kick out of that. I was like, all right, this is funny. I like this movie. So, I just like that movie because I don't know, that's where I realized that I should drop my expectations and just enjoy the movie.
Yeah. Okay. Actually, thinking about this, like doing this right now, it made me realize I want to add a quick. I don't know if we're gonna do this for every movie, but I want to add another little segment, at least for this one. Who is your guys' favorite character in this movie? What about you, Harrison? Here. I'll talk. Mine's Barley, and it was solidified right at the beginning when Barley goes to pick up Ian from school, and he's inviting those people to his party. The part that that got me pretty good, I was laughing pretty good, was when Barley gets out and he's like, he like mentions something about Guinevere and he's like, oh, my mighty steed or something. He slaps the hood of the car and the bumper falls up. He's like, oh, gotta fix that bad girl. And he like turns around and plumbers crack as he's trying to fix the bumper on his car. I'm like, all right, Barley, you are sick. I like you right now. So I think Barley, and he was so awesome to Ian too. As you like look back on it, like he was always willing to like sacrifice everything for Ian. Like we know at the end, like he was like, okay, here I'll go distract the dragon so you can see Dad. Like that was his first like decision. It wasn't about him at all, and he was always willing to like, okay, let's go on an adventure. Like he was always pushing his brother to be better, and I just think Barley was absolutely fantastic. So.
Yeah, I would say, if you asked me at the start of the movie, I did not like Barley. I thought he was rude, and I just, like, he was kind of annoying and just rubbed me the wrong way. But towards the end, I was like, I just have nothing but love for him. So yeah, Barley's my favorite.
Mm-hmm. Consensus. All three of us love Barley, so.
All right. Well,
He's a
last
solid
segment here,
character.
Fall In. We'll make this a quick one because I know we're running out of time. We got places to go. But Fall In. This is where we get into the meanings, emotions of the movie, which this one has tons of. Yeah. Do you guys have any that you want to share?
Yeah, go ahead, kid.
It's the scene where Ian has to walk across the bottomless pit.
Oh, yeah.
And he's walking across. He's got the rope on him, or he tries it first and it doesn't work. And he's straight up scared. And Barley turns on, hey, you can do this. And like he's really being a mentor to him. But yeah, thinking about it, he's more than a mentor to him at this point. He's being a father figure for Ian. And I realized that the second time I watched it. So this time I just watched Barley and his like how he was like that, and it's throughout the whole movie. He's like comforting Ian. He's teaching him. He's like encouraging him. He's supporting him. All the whole movie, and I've come to love Barley so much because of that. But this scene helped me realize it in the first movie. It was like, holy crap, Barley is like amazing. Is when Ian's walking across and he doesn't realize the rope is untied, and then Barley like realizes that, and he's like, oh crap. He's like, just keep going. Like don't look back. And he's like, trying to keep him to get over the cliff. And there's a point where Ian's like so happy that he's doing it, and then cuts back to Barley, and Barley's crying. He's like so scared for Ian. He's like, come on. And like, I don't know, I'm almost starting to feel emotional about this right now, because just seeing how much he loves Ian in that scene, it's like that is some brotherly love right there. That's like he truly cares. That's just because like he just, I don't know, Barley doesn't exhibit a lot of emotion. Yeah, I don't know if you realize that in the movie, but like at that point he realizes that like I could lose my brother, and like he's like just go, and it was awesome. I love that scene. That's one of my other favorite scenes.
Yeah, I love that scene too, because it's like in a situation like that, the only option you have is to keep Ian believing in himself. Like what else? Like if Ian falls, is he gonna use it again? Like if he fell, he's obviously not gonna succeed the second time. Like you can do absolutely nothing. Like your only option is to make him believe in himself. And Barley just like all the fear and like the excitement and like the mentoring and coaching all at the same time. It's just, I love that scene, and like the relationship it shows between Barley and Ian, and also how much it helps Ian grow.
Yeah, and like especially at the end of that scene when he's like, oh, but I needed the rope, and he's like, turns out you didn't, or something like that. And it's like, oh, dang. Yeah, that's what it was. And it was like, yeah, it was a big growing moment for Ian. But yeah, I definitely feel you there. And it was very good, because you could like see in Barley like how like scared he was, and you could like hear it in his voice. But it was a great acting scene. Like, I know it's not like real, it's like animation stuff, but still, like you guys said, it moved me too. So it moved you guys. So, but yeah, the thing I really like about this movie, I got this vibe of like, I felt like this is a really cool shout out to people who don't necessarily grow up in like the stereotypical perfect family, but like circumstance of where you have both parents, you have great brothers and sisters or whatever, because it shows like how hard life could be for someone who didn't have, in this case, a dad growing up. I can't relate in that sense. I have been blessed to have both my parents like alive and there while I was growing up. But I felt like this movie did a really, really cool way of showing people that you could, in the end, yes, it's like family is very important, but sometimes it doesn't have to be, and this is where my take comes in, it doesn't have to be like through blood to choose, like you could choose who your family is. And we saw like Ian do that at the end as he looked at his list and realized that all the things he wanted to do, he was able to do with his brother. And that yes, it would have been, yes, like he of course he wanted to do it with his dad. Obviously he wanted to have that experience, but the fact that he realized his brother was there and that his brother was there for him. And yes, his brother wasn't his dad, obviously, but he was able to, like, make those memories and have those experiences with his brother. And it makes me realize, I'm watching right now the TV show Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I absolutely love it. It's so freaking funny. Go check it out. But there's a episode where, like, Jake Peralta, he also had, like, a very difficult childhood. And there's this scene, I think it's like a Thanksgiving episode or whatever, when he realizes, like, look, I may not have family to celebrate with, but I choose that you guys are my family. Like, referring to everyone that he works with at like the precinct, and they were his best friends. And yes, he didn't have those great family memories growing up, but he could choose to have his family then and there and make those experiences with them. So the message I get from that is like, to anyone who may be like struggling with not having that brother or sister or father, mother, whatever, that they always wanted, that they could, I'm sure it's very difficult, but they can make the effort to find someone and fill that need through other friends and create your own family.
Yeah, I like what you said there, because it's like a family is it can fluctuate, and it's good that it can, because there's a lot of people who, like, I have someone who has like he doesn't really connect with his family very well. But for some reason, we have this connection that he really gets a lot out of. And so he considers me as his family, and it feels amazing to know that, like, you need someone to be a father figure or a mother figure or like a brother or a sister, and like you can find people, you don't have to be related to them, to take those shoes and fill them. Not just like try to be that person, but just really fill them and fulfill that need and desire. And it's, I don't know, I've always enjoyed having a mentor throughout my life, and it's changed throughout the years and stuff like that. But there's this one, I remember his name's Mr. Miller. He's one of my teachers that I knew, and he was this old dude, and when I first met him, I didn't know I'd really connect with him, but after every class, we'd always like have these conversations about, life in general and stuff, or just chatting. And for some reason, the way we talked, the way we communicated, it clicked. And I seriously enjoy having met him, even though I only knew him for about a year and a half, 2 years. Like, I still think about those conversations that we have and how needed those were. And so connections, like I said, I said this before in another episode, but connections are underrated. And this movie really hits hard on that. So that's what I gotta say about that.
No, I totally agree with everything you guys said. I definitely do. The movie kind of impacted me in a very, very different way, though. And I hope my wife is okay with me saying this, but like, one of the reasons that she was so connected to Ian was because she's very similar. Like, she's incredibly capable, incredibly talented, but like the fear of failure, the fear of not being good enough, like often prevents her from reaching that potential. And I feel like I'm more like Barley, where like I'm not the greatest at everything, but like I sure am excited about it and like not afraid of it. And like I don't know. I just feel like we're very, very similar to the two of them, and and it really like taught me like the correct way to love someone like that is to be more like Barley, which I am not, and I should be more like him, like someone that's filled with like so much love and encouragement and like pushing someone to do more, but like of course support and like trust going both ways. It just like just perfectly in a way to me portrayed my wife's and I relationship and just really impacted me that way and like the role that Barley fills. And like I feel like we've kind of been talking about like how Ian grows from it, but I also think it's an amazing story to see how like Barley is able to provide that growth for Ian and how important it is to be someone like Barley, which I want to be more like.
Very solid stuff. I think this is a very surprising movie, like, by how much we got from it. Like, I was genuinely surprised. And I love the lesson that, like, I learned from this, and I hope to, like, live it now, so.
Yeah, I agree. I love this movie. I really do. It's solid. So
That's a good spot to
thanks for listening to the episode.
end up at.
Yeah, thanks everyone for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed the movie as much as we did. And I hope you guys enjoy the more recent episodes. We're going to be cranking out 2 a week now and doing some more relevant movies out. And when the theaters open again, we're definitely going to be going there. So we're pretty excited. We've planned out some pretty exciting movies. So, yeah, thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Ciao, ciao.
All right, what it do, baby?
Peace out, home dogs. Let's do it.